second session of today's program. The session is handled by Mr. Rahul Kumar. He is a research scholar, Department of Mechanics, Solid Group in Indian Institute of Technology, Madras, Chennai. His topic is stochastic analysis of bladed disk system, challenges and the solutions. So I welcome you, sir, for this session. He has presented many papers on the turbine blade problems, and now he is presenting a stochastic analysis of bladed disk system. So now I welcome Dr. Mr. Rahul Kumar for this total program, and I will hand over the session to Rahul Kumar. Over to Rahul Kumar, sir.
Thank you, Professor Hariharan.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so welcome to this session. Myself, Rahul Kumar from IIT Chennai. Today I'm going to talk about the stochastic analysis of bladed disk system. What are the challenges for the analysis and what could be the remedy for the challenges whatever we are facing in the analysis. So before moving further, I would like to acknowledge Professor Sayan Gupta and Dr. Sheikh Farooq Ali from IIT Madras for guiding me. And I would also like to extend my thanks to Mr. Sankar Kumar. He is a scientist F in GTRE Bangalore. And of course, the funding agency, that is the Gas Turbine Research Establishment, GTRE Bangalore. This organization has funded completely for the current analysis, whatever I'm going to present today in front of you guys. Well, the outline of the talk is going to be, first I will start with the introduction and objective of this analysis. Then I will talk about the methodology what I have adopted in this analysis, which incorporates the following steps. Uh, Polynomial chaos expansion. I will explain the basic principle of this technique. Then domain independence. Then how we are going to represent my random parameter with the limited set of data point. Then how we are going to incorporate the finite element modeling in a stochastic framework, and then how we are going to reduce the system dimension. And I will implement this methodology on a particular problem to show the efficiency and other aspects of this problem. And then I will conclude my talks with the important and salient remarks of this analysis. So, well, if you look at this rotating turbo machinery, it contains a multi-level of this bladed disk system. And if you further go into the detail, you will see a sector is a repetitive unit for this particular component, which is one of the important component in any rotating machinery system. Well, typically when we look into the design perspective, all the sectors are designed to be identical, and we call it is a tuned system. In such cases where we have identical sectors, identical in terms of geometry, in terms of material, in terms of placement of the blades, everything will come into the place. And in such cases, we refer it to be a tuned system. Whereas in practical scenario, if you look at the parameters vary a lot because of certain reasons which we cannot avoid, such as while operation there is something called wear and tear. While manufacturing, we have something called manufacturing tolerance, and these things lead to mistuning into the problem. Now we need to incorporate those mistuning into my analysis, because if you look at the tuned system, it is a kind of a periodic system where the analysis is quite simple compared to the mistuned system, where each sector has its own characteristic. How we are going to do all those things, how we are going to incorporate those into our mathematical model so that we can estimate appropriate response or physical quantity of interest, that is the whole objective, and that is the whole challenge which we are going to address in this talk. Well, first we should look into the tune system. What is tune system? Essentially, it is an ideal condition. We can see here it's a representative bladed disk system, and it's actually the tune system concept is an ideal concept. We cannot see these things in a practical scenario. We assume the material property to be homogeneous, and because all the sectors and the blades are identical in nature, we can expect the natural frequency of each blade to be identical. And once we look into the FRF of this bladed disk system, we can see we have plotted here these blade numbers. I mean, here I have 18 blades. So if you look at this axis, we have 18 such curves, and for a different frequency value. So we can see all these responses are identical because this is here I am dealing with a tune system. So this is expected actually. Now, once we look into the mistuned system, so here the different region, colored region shows the different parameter. I mean, it's just again a representation of a mistuned system. And the major reasons for the mistuning into the system coming from the wear and tear, which is very much possible while operating. Then manufacturing tolerances. Each manufacturer has a different, manufacturing tolerance. Then obviously the inhomogeneity in material properties, which is very much possible when we deal with such sort of systems. Now, if you look at the response of mistuned system, we can see multiple peaks appear as compared to their tuned counterpart, where we have identical response. Here each blade has its own characteristic because each blade is different from the other, and we can also observe the amplitude of vibration has altered significantly. Now, how we are going to incorporate, so we can see here the response of the each and every blade is varying drastically, and it's difficult to predict which one is having a larger impact on the complete response framework. So we need to look into this part very carefully, and we need to incorporate such mistuning into our mathematical model so that we can capture the mistuned response. How we are going to do that, we'll see it a little bit later. Well, so these regions lead to the stochastic analysis because we don't know the nature of mistuning. It's completely random because it's coming from a various sources, and stochastic analysis is needed specifically because we don't know all the parameters, maybe because of lack of information. Then also the inaccuracy in measurements. Let's say we are measuring the geometry of the system, so it's not expected that all the times for all the blades we are having the accurate measurements. So these things lead to the stochastic analysis, and there are various ways of doing that. One way is the random variable approach, where the scale of fluctuations are more than the scale of the system. What I mean here, for example, let's say for a particular parameter E, which is going to be random in my case, it's a function of theta. I mean, for different realization, this E is going to be different. And within the domain, let's say this is my domain, this square shape which you are seeing here. Let's say it is my domain, and I'm modeling a particular parameter within this domain to be a random variable. Then the E, that random parameter, is going to be homogeneous throughout the domain, but it will not be same for the next realization or the next ensemble. So in that case, we model this to be a random variable model, and whenever we found that the scale of fluctuations are more than the system scale, we need to refer this random variable approach. Whereas there are certain problems like the one we are discussing right now, this random variable model will not work. Why? Because within the domain, it is not necessary that this particular parameter will be homogeneous. In that case, we need to adopt this random field approach, where the scale of fluctuation is less than the scale of system. For example, let's say here this is my domain, So let's say I'm modeling the Young's modulus, for example. So because of inhomogeneity into the problem, this E is no more homogeneous throughout the domain. So it will vary from location to location. In that case, we need to adopt this random field approach, because here the fluctuation is now within the domain. The spatial fluctuation is also coming into the picture. So this particular region has some e value, this particular region will have some e value. So within the domain we can having the fluctuation, and also for different realization this fluctuation will be different. So in such cases we are going to adopt the random field approach. So if you look at the current problem what we are dealing with the mistuning of a bladed disk system, here essentially we have this random field approach, because the fluctuation we can see here in the previous slide, here we can see we have a fluctuation within the domain. The e value at this location will not be the same here. The kind of thickness we are assuming here will not be the same here. So we have a variation within the domain. Maybe it's in micron. Practically, I mean, I have some measured data of this bladed disk. The fluctuation is not in terms of millimeter or centimeter. It's in micron, but still it has a very huge impact on the complete overall analysis. So that's why we are adopting the random field approach in our current analysis. So we are going to mostly discuss how we are going to tackle this problem, how we are going to model our system parameters as a random field. Well, so in random field approach, the coefficient in the stochastic system of equations, it is going to be a stochastic processes. Processes means it is going to vary for different realizations. And in such problems, to develop the weak form of the stochastic equation of motion, it requires two sort of discretization. One is the spatial discretization and the stochastic discretization. If you go for a deterministic finite element modeling of the bladed disk system itself, you just need the spatial discretization, where we have to discretize the spatial domain using our traditional finite element framework. Whereas if we look at the stochastic problem, when we incorporate the mistuning into the system, we need to have one additional discretization, that is the stochastic discretization, which is coming because of the variation in system parameters. That parameters could be Young's modulus, that parameters could be my density of the material, that parameter could be my thickness of the problem. So it depends. I mean, it could be anything. So we need to incorporate this additional discretization into the problem. So this discretization, the spatial discretization, is usually carried out using the traditional finite element method, which we are almost all of us are familiar with. And the stochastic discretization is carried out. There are different methodology already discussed in the literature, like OLE, that is optimal linear expansion. There is KLE, Kar-Hunen-Loiv expansion. There is something called PCE, polynomial chaos expansion. So we'll look into those aspects little late. So at this stage, we should keep in mind the stochastic analysis of this bladed disk system requires two sort of discretization, and it should be noted here the dimension of a spatial discretization will not be same to the stochastic discretization. It will be different. And as already I told, there are different ways of stochastic discretization, but in literature, if you look into, it has been shown mathematically that polynomial chaos expansion gives the optimum stochastic dimension, and that's why in current analysis we have adopted this polynomial chaos expansion approach for stochastic dimension. Well, it should also be keep in mind the spatial discretization gives us a traditional finite element method, but since we are dealing with a stochastic system, so we need to merge these two discretization, and this leads to a stochastic finite element modeling, and this stochastic finite element modeling leads us to develop the stochastic system matrices. That is going to be our base or the starting point of our analysis. Well, the objective is now to develop a robust framework which can incorporate all such mistuning which is coming into the problem because of certain inevitable circumstances like manufacturing tolerances, like wear and tear, like assembly of those bladed disk systems. So this sort of things lead to uncertainty into the problem, and we need to have a robust framework where we can incorporate all such mistuning into the analysis to get the optimum or the accurate estimate of our response parameters. Now, so this is my equation of motion in the stochastic framework, where you can see here mass, damping, and stiffness all are going to be random. In general, I am talking. Even though I have shown the forcing here to be deterministic, it's a function of time only, but it could also be deterministic. And in practical scenarios, it is deterministic. Sorry, it is stochastic, like wind load or the such any kind of fluid pressure. If you look at this, all leads to a stochastic loading into the problem. But as of now, let's this to be a deterministic. But I will show it a little late. Even though in my analysis this is not going to be a deterministic, it is going to be a stochastic. So that part will come little late. Meanwhile, you can see here my mass, damping, and stiffness is stochastic. And since my input is stochastic, my output parameters, you can see displacement, velocity, and acceleration. All these things are going to be stochastic. Well, if you look at the, let's say if I'm going to model my Young's modulus to be random, obviously this stiffness part is going to be stochastic. If I'm going to model my density to be random, obviously this mass is going to be my stochastic parameter. Now, let's say if we are considering this proportional damping, which is anyway depending on this K and M, this damping is going to be a stochastic system matrices. Now here this equation, if you look into the rotating framework, the system matrices are going to be asymmetric. Whereas then the static case, this system matrices are going to be um, uh, symmetric matrices. Well, also it should be noted here, the analysis will be different for asymmetric matrices. If system matrices are asymmetric, we need to be modify a little bit. And in this talk, I am not going to discuss this part. If time permits, or if I have some time, I will definitely put some discussion over this. But mostly, I will deal with the linear case under static case, static condition, and I will show you some of the plots for a stochastic system under rotation. Well, here I have used PC framework for estimating the response also. Once we have the input parameter as a random field, obviously my output is going to be random. And that input randomness will propagate to the response through the system parameter, through the system. And that propagation need to be properly taken care. And here we have used the polynomial chaos framework itself for estimating the response part also. Well, the major challenges here to develop the PC framework with the limited measured data set. Why is it so? Because in reality, if you look at, we have a data available at certain discretized location. But if you look at theoretically, we required a lot of measurement data points to be available at different locations, which is not a practical case. Now, how we are going to develop this PC framework with the limited measure data set, it's going to be a bit challenging task. And we are going to answer this, how we are going to do this. Next challenge lies in this propagation of uncertainty which is coming into the problem through system parameters, how we are going to take care in the response part. And obviously, if you look at the problem, it's a bladed disk problem which is having a complex complex geometry, we need to deal with high fidelity finite element models, and the system matrices will have a dimension of, let's say, millions of degrees of freedom. So a single run will take a lot of time, and here I am dealing with the stochastic system where we need to simulate the system for fairly large number of times, and it increases the computational cost significantly, and it's not advisable at all to deal with such high fidelity finite element model for this stochastic analysis. So we need to switch for some reduced order model so that we can reduce the state space dimension, and we will further integrate that reduction approach with this this polynomial chaos expansion, which is giving us the optimized stochastic discretization, and this will essentially leads to the stochastic reduced order model. So how we are going to answer all these challenges, we'll see it one by one. Well, before going into the details of methodology, let's have a look at polynomial chaos framework, which is going to be the backbone of this complete analysis. So let us assume a random process, which is Z here, and we can represent this as in this format for a particular parameter, which is going to be modeled as random field using polynomial chaos framework. Here this Zi of x is a deterministic projections along the orthogonal basis. So here this phi I is my orthogonal basis function. Like Euclidean geometry, we have orthogonal axes x, y, and z. Similarly, here we have orthogonal basis function. So phi 1, phi 2, phi 3, these are all orthogonal to each other in probabilistic framework. Well, you can see here this Zi, this projection is a function of x, y, because here my system parameters is varying in the spatial dimension also. If I am dealing with the random variable approach, where you might have which I already discussed, where my system parameters are homogeneous throughout the domain, there is no variation in the spatial dimension. This Zi will not be the function of x, it is just Zi. But here, since it's a function of x, I mean, since it is discretizing, it is varying in a spatial domain as well. This Zi is going to be a function of x. For different location, this is going to be different. Now, if you look at this expression, here this is a parameter which I am interested in to model as a random field, or it may be a response, it may be an input parameter, whatever it is. And it can be represented as these two parts. So this phi I, the orthogonal basis function, is my modeling decision. This will depends on the distribution, the incoming distribution. Let's say my Z is Gaussian distribution, then we will opt this phi to be a Hermite polynomial. If my Z is let's say uniform distribution, this phi I will assume to be a Legendre polynomial. So this phi is my this is this phi depends on this incoming input parameters, or the parameters which I am interested in to model as a random parameter. So this phi is known to me at least, and there are certain rules, something called ASCII scheme, ASKEY, ASCII scheme. Based on that, we used to generally find out the orthogonal basis function for a particular type of distribution. So this part is known to me. Now the challenge is to evaluate this Zi. How we are going to evaluate this orthogonal projection? So for that, essentially we are going to use the orthogonality property of this polynomial. So this is how we are going to calculate this deterministic projection. So this numerator, if you look at, it is essentially the expectation of Z x comma epsilon of into this phi I of epsilon. And if you look at the denominator, again it's an expectation, but since we know the polynomial, it is not a difficult task to calculate. But here, if you look at, this part is a bit challenging to evaluate. So now next challenge lies here in the evaluation of this numerator. Once we know the numerator, we know this deterministic projection, and once we know the deterministic projection, we literally know how to represent my system input system parameter in terms of uh, polynomial chaos framework. Well, to deal with the evaluation of this numerator, we need to evaluate this multi-dimensional integral. So you can see here, expectation usually given like this, calculated like this. So here this might be is the joint probability density function. If this epsilon is having more than one dimension, and this computation of this multi-dimensional integral will become more intensive and challenging once the dimension of this epsilon will keep on increasing. So the calculation of this projection essentially leads to a situation where we need to evaluate this multi-dimensional integral, and this evaluation will eventually leads to a situation something called curves of dimensionality. And you can find a lot of literature where they have dealt with the situation of this curves of dimensionality. Here we have overpassed this situation or this problem by adopting some approximation, numerical approximation. We are going to use uh, some numerical technique to evaluate this multidimensional integral. So there are a couple of ways of doing this. Let's say something called Galerkin approach, where you need to modify your system equation, and it eventually changes your deterministic codes, and the entire process is quite cumbersome. Whereas there is something called a stochastic collocation approach, where you don't have to change your deterministic code at all. What it does actually is you need to evaluate your these parameters at certain collocation points, and you need to multiply with that weight function. And once you have taken these orthogonal polynomials to be optimum I mean from the ASCII scheme, for already I told, like for Gaussian distribution, if I am taking this Hermite polynomials, for uniform distribution, if I am taking this Legendre polynomial, this weighting function here is quite simple to find out. Essentially, it turns out to be your PDF actually, to be a weighting function. So that's why while selecting this orthogonal polynomial, we need to be very careful, and it is better to use the ASCII scheme, so that at this stage we will find it very helpful. So this we are this part, this VI, VJI, VJ1, V2, VJZ, VJD. These are all my weighting function, and these are my collocation points at which we are going to evaluate this. So once we are done with this, we are having evaluated this numerator. Already we know the denominator, and we know the polynomial function. So now we are done with the modeling of input parameters with the known input, with the polynomial chaos framework. So this is what I'm going to use for my modeling part, and further we will expand this to find out the response quantities of my interest. Well, the first step of this analysis approach is something called domain independence of polynomial chaos expansion. Essentially, if you look at the current problem, it is having a very complex geometry in terms of twisting, in terms of out of plane geometry. So it leads to a bit difficult for implementation of this PCE, which is in the literature, if you look at, it's not discussed how to deal with such situation. So some recent study has shown that if we encounter such problems, there is a way to overcome this. What they have done actually, they have found a bounded domain actually, which encompasses the completely the original domain, and over that they have carried out their analysis, and that motivated us to extend that analysis for the polynomial chaos framework, where we have shown the mathematically that polynomial chaos framework We have shown mathematically that the probabilistic equivalence of PCE over the modified domain and the original domain. You can find the details, mathematical details of all such things which we are going to discuss now in the current literature, which recently got accepted in this International Journal of Mechanical Sciences. The mathematical details I have kept it here. I have not discussed it here because it won't. It will essentially deviate the objective of this talk, because it's all about the stochastic analysis and all those things, the stochastic framework and all those things. So that's why I have skipped the mathematical part. But I will give you the philosophy how we are going to use it here. Those who are interested, please refer this paper, and whatever the discussion it will happen after this slides, all the steps I mentioned here, I mean mentioned in this paper. Well, the important steps in the implementation of this, we need to find a minimal bounding domain, and we should be careful that the intersection of both the domains should not be a null set, which means the modified domain which we are choosing, it should be completely, cover the original complicated domain. For example, here this is my original domain. I've taken a simplified view here. So it's just we can say it's a plate with hole. Here we have a circular section. I mean, sorry, rectangular section, and this is a plate. So this is my original domain. To implement this domain independence part, we are going to find a modified bounding domain which will not incorporate this whole part. So and if you take at the intersection of these two, it's not definitely not going to be a null set. Definitely some of the parts between these two is going to be a common section. So what we are doing here, the stochastic discretization we are not going to carry out on this original domain. Rather, we are going to use this domain, which is a simplified domain, and further we will take out the information at this common location of these two domains, so that we can completely model this original domain. So that's the whole objective and whole philosophy how we are going to use this domain independence property of PCE. Well, the next challenge lies in the representation of polynomial chaos framework using this limited measure data set. Well, if you look at the system parameter, let's say f, we want it to be modeled as a random field. This is a small f, italic f, here is the continuous field. To mathematically model this, we need to discretize it for sure, but the discretization requires this capital F here, F1 to Fn. For theoretical perspective, if this n, this capital N number of random variables, one thing should be noted here. If you discretize this continuous random field, each of this discretized node or the discretized parameter will be your random variable now, and this random variable are not going to be independent, they are going to be correlated. So for a practical for a theoretical point of view, if this n tends to infinity, we will have this continuous random field. In other words, we can say the discretized random field is an approximation of the continuous field. In a practical scenario, this n is not going to be infinity. The information is not going to be available at all the domain or all the nodal location of the domain. It will be available at a certain location, and that to be dependent on the constraint of the experiments or the location which is having more important information. So based on those parameters, we are going to find out certain locations where we are going to have the measurements available. So this n is not going to be a infinite, it is going to be a finite value. So the objective now, or the challenge here, how we are going to model my random parameter, the input random parameter with the limited measure data set. Well, for example, so this is my complete domain. This is the bladed disk system having 12 blades, and this red dots which you are seeing here is the nodal location where the information is available. Here it's these are all representative way of showing this part. So all these locations we are having sample collection. We are going to collect samples at this specified location. Once we are done with the data collection, what we will do next is the estimating the marginal PDF using a statistical processing of the collected data for each such random variable. Now you can see this is a complete domain. Let's say Young's modulus is my random field which I am interested in. So for throughout the domain, my Young's modulus is going to vary. Now, how we are going to model the Young's modulus as a random field? We are going to collect the sample information at these locations. So each of these red dots are now random variable, and these random variables are now correlated random variables. So once we have the data here, for each random variable, I am going to find the marginal PDF. And then for finding out the correlation, these are all coming from the experiments or the practical data. So we need to find out the correlation. What is the correlation existing among them? So there is a metric, something called SRCC matrix. SRCC means Spearman rank correlation coefficient matrix, that gives us the correlation, existing correlation among these random variables, which is going to be a correlated random variables, which is coming from the discretization of the continuous random field. Once we are done with the correlation part, we will simulate or generate some random variable J using this correlation part, using this correlation matrix, which is a correlate. There are certain properties of this SRCC matrix which we are going to use it. Essentially, if you look at the SRCC matrix, its values, the component or the elements of this matrix will lies between -1 and +1. And one of the important feature of this SRCC matrix is it is invariant under monotonic transformation, and that property we are going to use it here. So with this SRCC or with this correlation information, we are going to generate or simulate this zeta, the random variable. Now, once we are done with this simulation part, we will find out a functional relation f, this small f, which maps this zeta to the original random field. And this can be done using certain probabilistic transformation. If you look at the literature, there are certain probabilistic transformation which fulfill this this requirement. There are something called Rosenblatt transformation. There are something called Nathaf transformation. So there are certain transformation which gives you this functional form which relates or which maps this zeta to this f. Now, since we are using here the marginal PDF, I have using the Nathaf transformation, which is a special case of Rosenblatt transformation. Now, once we are done with this, the next part is to construct the surrogate model, and for that we will find out the projections. Already we shown in the previous slides for polynomial chaos framework. There are two parts. One is the projection, and the other one is the orthogonal polynomial. So polynomial is coming from my design or the input parameter, the nature of input parameters, and the projection we need to evaluate. So here we have to evaluate the projection about the orthogonal basis functions. And once we are done with this, I mean, once we know the orthogonal basis function, once we are having the surrogate projections, we are ready to simulate our random field across the domain. So this is the whole line diagram or the steps involving the PC representation of a particular random parameter using the measured data set. And already I told you about the recent publication of mine, where I built dealt all these things in detail, the important steps of analysis, all these things we have mentioned there. The next part is to development of my stochastic equation of motion. And since we are dealing with the stochastic system, this will be carried out using a stochastic finite element method. So how you are going to deal with that, we will see it here. Well, let's say this is my input parameter, and we are going to model this as a polynomial chaos framework, and this is how we represent. So we can see here the limit is from I is equal to 0 to n. Typically, if you look at the polynomial chaos expansion, it will be infinity, but since it is not possible to go for infinity, and it is not required also, I will show it later, the convergence study of this. So this n is some finite value, and I is equal to 0 is the case of means, I mean the case of mean parameter. So mean plus the additional deviation which is coming to the problem, and this is how we model the input part. And once we are done with the modeling of input parameters like Young's modulus, like density, next part is to write the or obtain the energy equation, which will obviously going to be a function of your input parameters. If I'm writing the kinetic energy and potential energy, all these things indirectly or directly will depend on your input parameters. And since we are dealing with the 3D problem here, this is the constitutive relation for a 3D problem. Now next is to obtain the system matrices, and these are my elemental mass and stiffness matrix. For example, let's say if I am interested in modeling my stiffness matrix, so it depends on D. D is the constitutive relation matrix, and it's this D is depending on this E. E is my Young's modulus, and this Young's modulus is a random field. So you can see this D is essentially going to be a random field, and since this D is random, my elemental matrix is going to be random. And when we assemble all the elemental matrices, the global matrix what we obtain is essentially going to be a random, or a stochastic stiffness matrix. Similarly, if you look into the mass, if my rho is random, my mass matrix is going to be random. So this is the general overview of how we are going to obtain my system matrices in a stochastic framework using a stochastic finite element framework. Now next part is the reduction of a state space dimension. Already I told, since we are dealing with a very complicated geometry, and if you look at the industrial perspective, there the geometry is quite complicated, and for accurate analysis usually the industry prefers a very high fidelity finite element model, and in such cases the dimension of your system matrices are going to be very huge in terms of millions. So it is practically impossible to deal with such a high order of system matrices. So researchers started looking into the alternative, and it leads to it motivates the researcher to go for a reduced order model. And there are various ways of reducing this state space dimension. So here in this current approach, if you look, essentially we have two sort of reduction. One in the stochastic dimension, the reduction or the optimization of a stochastic dimension, and the other one is the reduction in a state space dimension, which will essentially govern your the dimension of system matrices. So here in this slide, we are going to look into how we are going to reduce the state space dimension and further integration of that reduction with the stochastic framework. Well, if you look at the system matrices in full order, this is how it will look like. M, C, and K are my system matrices in full dimension. Now Reduction means we are going to map our full order system to some selected, master degrees of freedom in the reduced subspace, and this will be carried out using this transformation matrix. Now, the crux lies here into finding this transformation matrix T. And since I'm dealing with this stochastic framework, this T is also going to be a stochastic matrix. Why? Because this T is essentially depending on this system matrices. So, each time if you do, your T is going to be a stochastic system matrices. Well, how we are going to evaluate this? There are different approach. So if you look at the a fundamental principle of any reduced order model, this is how it looks like. You have a full order system. You want it to be represent in terms of some selected degrees of freedom. Let's say A, which is very less than this capital N, and this is related by this. Now the challenge is to find this transformation matrix. So the different approaches of reduced order model, just there are different ways of finding this T, nothing else. So here we are using something called a system equivalent reduction expansion process. The acronym is SEREP. Before moving further, let's have a quick look on the SEREP, how it works in the deterministic framework, and obviously we can extend this framework to the stochastic analysis as well. Well, if I want my full order response in the model domain, this is how we used to write. So this X is my physical coordinate, Q is my model coordinate, and this phi is essentially coming from the eigenvalue analysis, the eigenvector, the matrix of eigenvectors. So we can write my X, the physical coordinate, in terms of model coordinates using this phi matrix. And this is a very well-known step. Next, if I truncate my modes, so it should be also noted here, the SEREP approach essentially reduce the state space dimension in two stages. First is the reduction in modes, active modes, and second stage is reduction in active degrees of freedom. So this stage which you are seeing here is the first stage where we are reducing the active modes. So let's say I am representing this analysis or the response here using just M active domains. Let's say my original system matrix is of size 1 million times 1 million. So I have 1 million nodes. Now we are not. It is not required actually to keep all such 1 million modes in my analysis. So we restrict ourselves to this M modes, which is much lesser than this 1 million value, and correspondingly this phi matrix will reduce, and it will be of dimension n times m. Essentially originally it was of dimension n times n, here it is of dimension n by m. Now next step is the splitting this active this response in terms of active degrees of freedom and deleted degrees of freedom. What I mean by active degrees of freedom is the degrees of freedom which I am interested in, like where we have the loading, where we have some change in cross section, where we have to find the response. So these are the critical location which we should not avoid anyway. It should be appear or it should be retained in my reduced space, and that's why we call it as active degrees of freedom. And this will be retained in my analysis, and remaining whatever is left from after selecting this active degrees of freedom will come under the category of deleted degrees of freedom. So this is how we split our total response vector in terms of active and deleted degrees of freedom, and correspondingly my model matrix will also be splitted in terms of this. So this is the second stage of reduction, where I am restricting the degrees of freedom now. So this stage we restricted the number of modes, and this stage we are restricting the degrees of freedom. So this is the two stages of reduction process. And now if you write in terms of active degrees of freedom only, so we can write xa of t is equal to phi am into qm of t. And if I want model domain response in terms of physical coordinate, we have to take the inversion of this phi matrix. So this is essentially, it looks like this. It should be noted, this phi matrix, it need not be, square matrix. It could be rectangular matrix as well, because it is not necessary that my number of modes and number of degrees of freedom will be same. Here m represents the number of modes, 8 represents the active degrees of freedom. So it's not necessary that these two will be same. So in that cases, this is going to be a, this rectangular matrix, so that we have to go for generalized inverse rather than the simple simple inverse we usually carry out for, this square matrices. So it's not so that is why I have written a generalized case here, where this phi ma over dagger, this represents my generalized inversion. Now we know the model domain response in terms of active degrees of freedom. Once you put back this qm here in this stage, you will see your x of t is equal to phi nm into phi ma xa. So essentially, you are writing your original system response in terms of limited or active degrees of freedom. So that's how this SCREP approach helps us in reducing the state space dimension, and essentially this gives us the transformation matrix. So you can see here my T is phi nm, this phi nm into phi ma, this phi ma, and this is my transformation matrix, and this is going to be a stochastic. Already you might have understand why this is going to be a random matrix, because it depends on this phi, and this phi is coming from the eigenvalue analysis of my k and m. So for each realization, this t is going to be my random matrix. So once we obtain the transformation matrix, now my job is done. Now we have to just do this sort of calculation to get my reduced system matrices. Now you can see here in the full state, my forcing matrix, or sorry, forcing vector is deterministic, but in the reduced space it is also going to be a random vector, because it is having a it is transformed using this this omega bond here. It's a typo error. So we have operated this deterministic vector with the stochastic or the random transformation matrix. So that's why this is my force vector in the reduced space. So you can see here with n-dimensional system matrices, using this approach, we have converted the complete system matrices into a-dimensional system matrices in the stochastic framework. So this is essentially my stochastic reduced order model. Now, in a nutshell, the complete formulation can be summarized as: first, we have to find the proper domain for a complicated geometry, so that we can carry out our stochastic discretization or stochastic modeling. And then obviously we need to model our input random field using limited measured data set. For that we need to have a collection of data at certain location, and then we have to follow the procedure, mathematical procedure, to estimate the random field, which is going to be the input parameter. Then with this input parameter, we are going to calculate our system matrices, and then in the we need to find out the system matrices, and then we need to find out the response of the system. And this all things will be carried out in reduced order framework using PCE based. Well, that was the complete step which has been incorporated in the analysis. Now we will discuss some academic problem of bladder disk system where we have implemented all those methodology or the steps which we have discussed so far. So let's say this is my problem. This is the academic rotor where we have 12 plates, and this is a finite element mesh of that, and this is the mesh information for a particular sector. And once you go for a complete modeling of this, the complete bladed disk system, the degrees of freedom, I guess it was coming around somewhere 45,000. So since I'm dealing with the problem and my objective here is to show the efficiency of proposed framework, I have taken this problem and I have taken this number of elements and nodes. And these are the material properties which has been used here for this analysis. Modulus of elasticity to be 200 megapascal and material density to be 7,800 kilogram per meter cube. And the first step, as we have discussed previously, we need to find out the modified domain which completely encompasses my original domain. So this is my original domain. We can see here a lot of change in cross section, and shape is not very regular. So here this outer pink domain which you are seeing here, it is a modified domain D dash, and this D is the original domain. Now the stochastic discretization will be carried out over this this D dash, and for the common location, then we will take the information and we will model the random field for this particular original domain which is of my interest. Okay, so in this analysis, since already I told this complete analysis is just to demonstrate the feasibility and the efficacy of the proposed framework. We have taken Young's modulus to be modeled as a random field, and that to be non-Gaussian, that is log normally distributed. Why? In literature, if you look at, it has been very well established that the system or the material properties exhibit or shows a non-Gaussian nature. That's why we have opted for this log normally distributed random field, which is essentially a long tail distribution. So this is all about the modeling part. Now to show the efficiency of this deterministic ACREP, the reduced order approach over this full order model, we have plotted this FRF for two cases. One case is when we have 144 active modes, first 144 active modes, and the second case is when we have left the first mode and we have taken the second to 145th. And these are the nodal locations where we have taken the active degrees of freedom. So you can see we have 4 such locations, and each node has 3 degrees of freedom. So essentially for one sector we have 12 degrees of freedom, and for a complete bladed disk it will be 12 times 12, 144 degrees of freedom. And we can see a very good match has been observed here in terms of natural frequency. So these are the peaks corresponding to the natural frequency, and it should be noted here, since we have left the information of first mode, my reduced order model is not able to capture the first mode. So it should be noted here that methodology or the reduced order approach which we have adopted here, that is ACREP, will give you will retain the information whatever you want. For example, here I don't want the information of first mode, we left it did not capture. Here I want the information of first mode as well, I retained that in my analysis and it captured very well. So this is the validation of deterministic ACREP as compared to the full order approach. And we can see the full order approach contains almost close to 45,000 degrees of freedom, whereas in my reduced order approach it contains just 144 degrees of freedom. You can see the ratio, it is less than 5%. the degrees of freedom is less than 5%, and it is capturing the dynamics very well. Next, to show the match in mode safe, we have calculated the modal assurance criteria, that is MAC. Now, this is corresponding to the degrees of freedom when we have taken uniformly throughout the domain. And we can see the MAC values at the diagonal elements is close to 1, and it shows, it exhibits that the mode safes captured in the reduced order framework matches very well with that obtained in the full order model. Whereas, if we don't take proper care while selecting these active degrees of freedom and selected those active degrees of freedom at a specific reason, you can see the match is very poor. Why? Because it did not capture the complete dynamics of the system. So it should be noted here, catch here, that while selecting the active degrees of freedom, we need to be very careful. It should capture the complete dynamics of the system, and for that we need to properly choose these active degrees of freedom throughout the domain. Well, next is to find out the optimized order of this polynomial chaos, because already I told in general that limit goes to infinity, the number of terms in polynomial chaos expansion goes to infinity, but in practice it is not required. We have to put some limit, because if you keep on increasing the number of terms in your polynomial chaos framework, it will increase your computational cost. So always there is a trade-off between computational cost and accuracy. Once with a limited number of polynomial chaos terms, you are getting your expected accuracy. It's unnecessary to use infinite or unnecessary additional terms. Well, here we have used KL entropy, something called KL entropy, which is calculated using this formula, where this E is my expectation operator, and P and PT is my expected PDF, and PT is my target PDF. PDF means probability density function. So this is how we calculate this HKL, that Kullback liberal entropy, and we can see here the order PC order is not changing very much after this fifth order. So in current analysis, we have restricted the PC order to 5. Any question? Is there any question?
అది ఏరియా ఎఫ్ఎం రేడియో
Hello, it's not audible.
Ramakrishnan, please mute your speaker.
Yeah, sure.
Ramakrishnan, yes. Yes, you proceed, Rahul Kumar, sir.
Okay, thank you. So we can see here there is another matrix which we have used here to find this optimal PC order. Essentially, we have find out this relative error. What this relative error is, since already I told here, we can see we have used a modified domain here, D and D dash. So definitely there will be some error. So based on that, we also restricted or based on that we also optimize the number of polynomial chaos order. So this F and F dash, see, this delta corresponds to the original domain and this delta dash corresponds to the modified domain. So the difference between these two will give me the relative error at a particular location for a particular x value, and this F and F dash corresponds to the original without truncation, and this F and F dash corresponds to the truncated polynomial chaos. So this leads to another measure which governs the order of this PCE. So we can see here, even though we can see a little change in this error value, but this change is not very significant because it's order of 10 raised to -4. And based on this, if we keep on increasing the order of PC terms, already I told the computational cost will keep on increasing, and it is unnecessarily increase the computational time. That's why we restrict ourselves to PC order 5, which is uh, giving a very good result. Actually, we can see it little late. Now here I have plotted the PDF of elastic modulus. Since elastic modulus is my random parameter in this analysis, we have model that way as a random field. We can see a very good match has been observed from the estimated and target PDF. Estimated PDF has been obtained from the proposed framework, which just now we discussed, and target PDF we get it from the the modeling, which modeling aspect, which we know from the data set. Now at this particular black dot which you are seeing here, at this location we have plotted the PDF of these two and compared for these two cases, estimated and target PDF, and a very good match has been observed. So we can see even the fifth order PCE is giving us a very good response. So there is no need to go for, and this accuracy is acceptable actually. So there is no need to further add number of PC terms, which essentially put some additional burden on the computational effort. Well, next we plotted the natural frequency for the bladed disk system, and we can see here we have plotted the first natural frequency and the 50th natural frequency using two methods. What are these two methods? Actually, method one is the proposed framework where we have used the polynomial chaos framework for modeling of random field as well as for estimating the response parameters. Whereas method 2, we have used a polynomial chaos framework for random field modeling, but for getting the response part, we have used the traditional Monte Carlo simulation. So that is going to be my benchmark. That is method 2 is my benchmark, and we can see a very good match has been observed here as well. Well, if you come to the rotating part, we already I told you I am not going into the details of mathematical part of that, but I will show you some of the results which we have obtained. So here we can see when the system is static, we have something called natural frequency versus nodal diameter plot. Since I have 12 such plates, so I will have a maximum of 6 nodal diameters, and these horizontal lines which you are seeing here, it is essentially a mode family. We can see these mode families 7th and 8th. They are coming close to each other, but they did not intersect, and they just veer apart. So this is something called veering phenomena, and this is one of the important and unique feature of a rotationally periodic structure, which this system is actually. If you look at this bladed disk system, so it retains that property. Whereas if you look at the effect of rotation on the natural frequency, you can show it through the Campbell diagram. So we can see here this horizontal axis is my rotational speed and y-axis is my corresponding natural frequency, and we can see it's monotonically increasing. And this solid black line 1 EO, 2 EO, 3 EO is showing the engine order excitation. So first engine order excitation gives us the synchronous speed, whereas the second engine order excitation and above will give us the asynchronous speed. Also, we can see here this circle, the black circle will give us the critical speed, which where we need to be very much careful while having the operation for this particular rotation speed. Similarly, you can see here for first mode and first engine order excitation, it intersects at only one location for this particular regime of rotation speed. So we need to be very careful when my system is approaching near this rotation speed. The first engine order did not intersect with this second mode and above higher order modes for this particular design. Similarly, if you look at the second engine order excitation, it intersects at two different locations. So this Campbell diagrams also gives us the important critical speeds which are going to be very much important while designing my rotating machinery and especially this bladed disk system. Now for this rotating case also I plotted this polynomial, I mean the PDF of natural frequency and at a particular speed and engine order excitation, and we can see the proposed framework that PC gives a very good match, qualitative match with the benchmark Monte Carlo simulation. So that's how we calculate, we estimate our input random field, and then further we can use the similar framework for propagation of my input randomness to the response using the polynomial chaos framework itself, and it saves a significant computational time, because in polynomial chaos framework we are only solving at a particular collocation points, where in Monte Carlo simulation we need to solve for a complete domain. So now coming to the important conclusion of this current discussion, essentially we have developed a stochastic framework surrogate model for stochastic analysis, and it approximates the random field with limited measure data set. And since we are using the limited measurements rather than having a full-fledged information, it leads to additional epistemic uncertainty. But since we are modeling here with the robust mathematical framework, this essentially reduces the epistemic uncertainty into the problem, and the proposed model is capable enough to model the randomness associated with the system parameters with minimum number of stochastic dimension. And this is also able to capture the second order characteristic of the random field, as we have seen previously. I have shown you the PDF of the input parameter as well as the PDF of the response parameters. And the important part here is coming from the solution part. This proposed framework requires the solution at certain collocation point only. We don't have to solve for the complete domain. We will solve the complete problem at a particular collocation point, and this leads to significant reduction in computational cost as compared to the Monte Carlo simulation, which is most traditional approach for having probabilistic analysis. So that's all. Thank you very much for your kind attention. If you have any question, any query, any doubt, I will be very much happy to answer all such query. Thank you very much.
Participants can ask question, please. Sir, I have one doubt.
Yeah, yes, sir, sure.
Actually, what you have shown here is a blade, straight blade, sir.
Yeah.
If it is a curved blade, the same technique can be used, sir.
Yeah, that can be used. If you look at my that paper, I have not put everything here because again it will be very time consuming. In that paper, we have taken the model from GTI, that gas turbine research establishment. The academic problem, apart from academic problem, we have taken the industrial problem also, and we have implemented the same technique over there, and it gives a very good match as well there, and it contains a lot of twist and everything. So yeah, it gives a similar sort of accuracy.
Okay, sir. Because the curvature effect will be taken into account there, sir.
Correct. In that case, while selecting your active degrees of freedom, if you let me go to the slide here. Here.
Yes, sir.
While selecting this active degrees of freedom here, you have to be very careful.
Oh.
Since it is a straight blade, it did not affect much. I mean, because it will have a little bit of bending and twisting and all those things. But if you have a curved blade, then you have to you have to very careful while selecting this active duty software. So that part will take, if you take care of that part, you will get, uh, almost a very good result. Yeah.
Fine, sir. Fine, sir. Audience participants can ask any question, please. Otherwise, we will wind the session. Uh, on behalf of Congo Engineering College and Atal program, I thank Mr. Rahul Kumar for giving a wonderful session on introduction to that stochastic analysis of curved blades, and also I also request the participants to fill the feedback form which is available in the chat box. Thank you, Rahul Kumar, for accepting our invitation and deliver the lecture on this beautiful topic on this pandemic times.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. If you have any question or any query, any participant in future, you can mail me, or I will be available if I can answer your query. This is my email address. You can mail me. That is very much possible.
Yes. All of you note down his mail ID, which is there in the monitor. Okay, thank you, Rahul Kumar. All participants are requested to join again by 3 p.m. We have a third session of today, finite element technique to predict the failure of rotating parts and Higgs hypothesis, a case study. So, meantime, you take break for half an hour and join by 3 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
சார் தங்கவேல் சார். சார் மார்னிங் வந்து நான் இது பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கும்போது லிங்க் வந்து கட் ஆயிடுச்சுங்க சார். ப்ளீஸ் இப்போ அனுப்பிவிடுங்க, நான் இது பண்ணிடுறேன்.